Here, I got a little trade for you here, Scott. Hold on.
D'Angelo Russell is going to the Minnesota Timberwolves.
That's a huge win for the Wolves.
It made perfect sense for the Timberwolves.
With the first pick in the 2020 NBA Draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves select Anthony Edwards from the University of Georgia.
Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves presents the GM Corner with Chris Emerson.
Hey, this is Chris Emerson. Welcome to GM Corner. Today we're going to be talking about the Timberwolves draft, which is just a couple days away. I'm going to focus on some prospects at 19 that I think that can make an impact for our team. Guys that are going to be around 19 that are getting a lot of press right now, and maybe some second round sleepers. To start, let's think about what we need to improve on the roster. One of the main positions, I think, is power forward. If that's a small forward, power forward type, or if that's a power forward center type, we're going to talk about some of those. And another guy or another area I think we need to get some help in is play creation. D'Lo is, a very solid passer, sometimes even a great passer, but we need help. Even some of our backup point guards are more scorers than they are play creators and facilitators. So those are what I'm going to touch on because that's what I think we're most need of. So to start out, let me talk with the point guards. Drafting at 19 is a little rough because you're not usually going to get a starting level, star level player at 19. So you're looking for a role player. You're looking for someone with maybe upside. And point guards in this draft, I don't really see much of that in the first round. Ty Washington out of Kentucky is probably the number one point guard that'll be around our area. And he's a solid player. He's good at about everything. He's got a really good mid-range, nice little floater game. Very solid. The problem is that's all he is solid. He's undersized a little bit. He doesn't quite have the explosiveness to be really effective at the rim. He kind of has backup size point guard. And I don't think he can really get a shot. I don't think he's a guy like D'Lo who's going to be a play creator to get his own shot. Not going to be much of an offensive threat one-on-one. And with his size and with his lack of explosiveness, his defense is a question. So for me, Ty Washington is fine. And I think he'd be a fine backup. But, at 19 right now, I'm not really looking for a backup point guard because we already have a guy, if we keep D'Lo, that's going to be getting, 30 minutes a game. So I don't want to draft at 19 a guy who's getting under 20 minutes a game. Another guy that is kind of a prospect at point guard is Jaden Hardy. Now, this is the kind of guy that Connolly, I think, would like. He's a guy that had, top 5 potential coming out of high school, and everybody was excited about him. He went to the G League and kind of fell flat for a while, and then in the second half really picked it up. But he's not really a point guard in my book. I mean, he can pass a little bit here and there, but most guards should be able to do that. What he is though is a shooter, and he's a scorer. He's a stud at shooting, no doubt about it. 3-4 levels. 6-7 feet behind the 3-point line is not an issue for him. He's a strong kid, and he shoots it effortlessly. The problem is that's pretty much what Beasley is for us already. He's kind of like a Beasley or like a Buddy Hield type guy, where if his shot's not there, he doesn't really give you much else. He's not a defender. He's not a very creative play creator. And he's not very explosive. So he's not going to blow by you and finish at the rim. So, I think he's a good player and he definitely has upside. But, I don't really see him as an asset unless we move Beasley. If we move Beasley, then a guy like him who can score in bunches off screens and just on 3-point shooting, I think would be great. But for me, that's not my choice now either. 2 point guards, though, that I actually like better than both these guys as an actual point guard that are second round prospects that I want you to keep an eye on is Gene Montero, who also played in the G League. He was, I think, from Spain originally, but came over, and he's a shifty fast point guard, can get to the rim. I think on almost anybody, not so much with his speed, but more with just his craftiness. And he's a mid-range scorer. And then there's J.D. Davidson, who, if you remember him, big, fluffy hair, super athlete. And he's the guy I really like. I think he's a great passer and he's a plus athlete. I mean, I'm talking, windmill dunks on the rim on a big man kind of athlete. That's the kind of guys that I would take a shot at as a backup point guard in the second round if I was in this draft. Next, we're going to move to kind of wings. In wings, I'm looking at mainly, small forward, power forward type guys that can, play with Jaden McDaniels, and they both can kind of play that bigger wing position to kind of fill the power forward spot, or guys that can give us something that Vando doesn't give us. The first guy that a lot of people like is E.J. Little. I think it's Little. He's out of Ohio State. Great mid-range shooter, tough guy, solid defender, can defend, 2s, 3s, and 4s a little bit. The problem I have with him, though, is he's 6'7", and he looks 6'7". I don't know if his mid-range shot and his post-play creation that was so good in the Big Ten versus Big Ten bigs, which aren't that great, will work in the league. I don't think he has the explosiveness or really much of anything to really hang his hat on offensively that this will be his calling card. So he's kind of like a jack of all trades, master of none, which is fine for a role player, but I'm looking for a guy that can actually maybe step in to be a third star or something if we end up moving D'Lo. The next guy, Tari Easton. Tari Easton out of LSU is a 6'8", 7'2" wingspan. He's got that size that is impressive. He's a defensive guy. I mean, he can defend multiple positions, rebound, and start the break, which is something that most of our GMs in the last couple of years have really been strong on. They loved Aaron Gordon for that reason. They like Vando for that reason, where you grab the ball and you can push the break right off the bat. Tari Easton can do that. The problem with him is offensively. He's kind of like mechanical on offense and stiff. Doesn't really have a great shot, sort of out of control around the rim, had a bad finishing rate around the rim, just sort of off balance. And all that to me kind of sounds like Vando. I'm going to spend the 10th pick on a guy that I already know can level all the things that Easton is really impressive at doing at the college level. So I'm kind of passing on him. The next two guys are the guys I really like. Nikolai Jovic. Not to be confused with the two-time MVP. This guy is 6'11" in shoes with a 7-foot wingspan, so he's got legit length. That's Karl Anthony Towns size, but he plays more like a shooting guard. He can create off the dribble. He can push the ball. He shot the three. Like, he's got the shot. It hasn't fallen consistently, but a lot of that I think is shot IQ maybe, or maybe trying to do too much. He's got some of that NBA in him where he'll, jab step 3 or 4 times, maybe pump fake a little bit and then do a contested fadeaway. Not a great shot selection, but that's something that I think he's another guy that can rebound and start the easy. Kind of plays pretty much a point guard role. And that's what I would love to see him as. Almost like, think of, what I really look at him when I see him is like a modern day Lamar Odom, a guy that has more wiggle than Lamar Odom did. So he can take a guy one-on-one a little better. Still not an above the rim finisher, but is athletic enough to have a big dunk if he has a runway. I really like the guy. I mean, solid athlete still. He's not overly explosive, and his shot selection, like I said, is an issue. And like most of these guys, he's only 18, so he's still super young. So his size is an issue, strength, weight. But he's not the classic Euro that everybody thinks. This guy's got swagger to him. Like, he's the guy that I would draft at this pick if I had a choice. Another guy that's very similar, but maybe in a little bit different way, is his last name's Dang. I think his first name is Ousmane Dang. He's a Frenchman, and he's like the opposite of Jovic, where he's more defense than offense, but they're both long. This man's 6'9", I believe, so similar length, but he's more defensive switchability, block you at the rim, can guard, 1, 2, threes, maybe fours, but he's super thin also. His shot was really inconsistent in the beginning of the year. He played in the Australian League, where LaMelo Ball played, and shot terribly also against grown men. But the second half of the year, he really turned it on, and he looked like the legit prospect everyone thought he was. So he's skyrocketing up the boards right now. But he has guard skills, playmaking ability, and I would say he's more defensive than offensive at this point, but still has a good shot that could develop into a knockdown 3-point shooter. Both of those guys, Dang and Jovic, I'm looking at them next to a guy like Jaden McDaniels, and if we have both of those guys can be switchable, power forwards, small forwards, shooting guards, all athletically, all can get out and run, all are long. That's an exciting front court for me. Two long shots or second round guys in the same sort of build. John Butler out of Florida. He's a 7-footer, 7'1", who has legit NBA range from three. So that's always intriguing. And Patrick Baldwin Jr., who was a top 5, projected draft pick coming into the draft, and then went and played for his dad, who was a coach in Milwaukee, and had some injuries and just was playing with subpar talent and looked terrible, to be honest. He shot terrible and he looked terrible. So for him, it's more of just going off his high school tape, which had him as a top 5 projected draft pick. So who knows? That's a boom bust kind of guy. Now we'll go to bigs, which is something that a lot of guys like. A lot of guys think we really need to move into the, and get a big, which I agree with. And, Connolly, there's been rumors of Clint Capella and other bigs that we're going after, which makes me think that maybe keeping Cat at, a 4 and having a more standard center would be something that we're into, which is good because there's two guys that are kind of in our range, probably a little bit, might go before us, but we could maybe move up a little bit for them, and that's Mark Williams and Jalen Duren. I'll start with Jalen Duren because I think he's probably out of our reach. He's from Memphis. He's really skyrocketed up. He's a big bruiser, rebounder. I think he's the youngest guy in the draft still. Rim protection for sure. I mean, he reminds you of like Dwight Howard physique type guy, just chiseled out of stone. He can pass a little bit more than you would think for a guy for his size, and he can move better. I think one thing we have to look out for bigs, again, is what can they do that Vanderbilt can't do. And this guy, what he can do is maybe he's a little bit more of a rim protector, I would say, and more bulk, more of a bruiser. But he has no 3-point shot, and he's a 62% free throw shooter. So some of the same problems that we ran into with Vando, where he almost plays himself off the court because he's such a minus offensive player where guys will just leave him. Some of those same problems I think could happen with Duren. I think Duren could switch on to smaller players to play our hedge system where you're switching and falling back on wings a little bit. I think he can do that, which makes him impressive because we also need to add a guy that can be a drop coverage, which is like what, Gobert and, all the bigs that are getting a lot of shots blocks are doing, where there's mainly a big that just patrols the paint. He can add that, which we don't have. He'll probably be gone though. Mark Williams is a big that I think from Duke that I think will maybe be around our spot. 7'2", 7'7" wingspan, super long. Rim protector for sure. Solid rebounder, not great, but solid rebounder. Lob threat kind of guy. I mean, that's pretty much what he is. He's going to protect the rim, rebound okay, and, clean up around, lobs and stuff. Problem is, that doesn't really add that much that Vando doesn't do. He has no 3-point shot, like literally hasn't taken one in college. And I don't think his mobility is there enough where he can slide over and get, control the guard on a drive, or maybe slide over and take a power forward that's got a little dribble ability. I don't know if he has that. So I don't really know what adding him does other than give us a drop defender, which is important. And I think it's something we need to add. But I don't think the 19th pick is somewhere where I would like to use for just that role. A couple guys to look for in the second round, though, that I think can fill that role is Christian Coloco, I believe is how we say his name, out of Arizona. Big, long guy, shot blocker, and I think he's athletic enough to slide. I almost like him better than Mark Williams, to be honest. He doesn't get the hype. Maybe it's a Duke versus Arizona thing. I'm not sure. Walker Kessler, another giant guy, blocked a ton of shots. Can't move much at all, but if you just want a big, bulky guy to body Embiid, that's the type of guy you need. And then there's some Eurostash guys. There's a Ibu Baji is his name. A lot of people are saying he's like Mutombo, so just another big, bulky guy to block shots. There's plenty of these guys in the second round that I think we can take a shot at. Big, strong athletes that I think can do almost exactly what those guys I mentioned earlier could do, that are looked at as top 10, top 12 picks, but you can get them in pick 40, pick 50. One sleeper I have that a big, Kai Soto, out of the Philippines. This guy is like the Philippine, I don't know, Michael Jordan right now. He's their number one hype guy for NBA fandom in the Philippines, and he's worth it. He's 7'1" at least, has NBA range, has decent dribble game, can protect the rim, and he might go undrafted. So that's the kind of guy that I would love to grab for just pure potential upside and to pull the entire nation of the Philippines in to Timberwolves fans. I mean, basketball is huge over there. Let's try to spread the word. Well, that was a GM Corner for now. Good luck in the draft. Go Wolves.
Thanks for watching the GM Corner with Chris Emerson. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe for the best Wolves content on YouTube. It's the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves YouTube channel.